Hello, it's Tuesday's Talking Reds. It's John Gibbons, and I'm joined for the first time, I think, on this feature by Dave Lynch from The Standard. He's done a few shows for us and stuff, and writing for the Standard now. It's sort of a fairly new job. How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's been good. It's nice to be on the other side of the fence in terms of covering Liverpool.
Because you were working for the club, weren't you, before that?
Yeah. So obviously, slightly restricted in what you can say in that regard. So no, it's nice. It's been a nice change, and I've been seeming to get good feedback so far. Not got any abuse yet, so it's going all right.
Yeah, I can't wait for Dave just to slag everyone off now for 10 minutes just because he can now. I mean, it's obvious what the big story of the day is. I use an app called Football Flash, which sort of gives you all the kind of Liverpool news in the morning. It's just dominated today by the Daniel Sturridge stuff, which is, you know, it's the biggest story in football, I guess, not just for Liverpool, David, because it's quite a rare thing to happen, isn't it? This idea of well, anything close to gambling. I mean, you've written about it for The Standard, so if people aren't quite on the details, can you fill people in on sort of where it's up to at the moment?
Yeah, well, obviously, just at the moment, it's just a charge, so you know, nothing's settled yet. It's obviously just the FA going to investigate this and see. The accusation relates to. It just says, you know, it's quite vague in terms of just January 2018, so we don't know exactly when. You know, was he at West Brom at the exact point it happened, or you know, other reports have suggested that it is something around that move to West Brom. So it's you know, still a bit vague on the details really, but it's there's a lot more to come out from it, I'm sure.
Yeah, wait and see. He's got till I think it's this evening to respond to this charge. All the suggestions are sort of from the club that he's been complying with the FA. He's been speaking to them kind of openly and freely, and he says as well that he's never bet on a football game, but obviously you can get in trouble for insider information and stuff like that as well, can't you?
I mean, I suppose the difficult part from the FA's point of view is to prove that definitively that he would be the source of that information, I suppose. I mean, obviously the punishments he could get if he is found guilty are fairly harsh. You look at the Joey Barton ban for betting offences was quite a lengthy one. He got it reduced on appeal, but still, you know. Yeah,
it was 18 months originally, wasn't it? It should be said that was Joey Barton had placed over 1,000 bets because Joey doesn't do anything in moderation. So if he's going to break a rule, he's really going to break it. So that was over 1,000 bets that Joey Barton was found to have placed. There was another incident a couple of years ago with the Manchester City defender, I can't remember which one now, who placed around 20-25 bets, who just got a 22 grand fine. So the scale of punishment is actually quite wide, isn't it?
Yeah, and you imagine if it is just relating to insider information around his move, for example, and again we are speculating on that it wouldn't be as severe a ban or punishment. So, you know, hopefully nothing too serious. And by the sounds of things, you know, he completely denies that he's anything to do with him putting a bet on personally. So, you know, hopefully it's nothing too serious.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a shame for Daniel, really, isn't it? Because I mean, it didn't work out for him. The last start he gets hooked out at Red Star Belgrade at half time. But generally speaking, I think the season's been a lot more positive for him than maybe a lot of us were expecting. And obviously his contract's out in the summer. There's a bit of a question over that, and so it just all feels like a little bit bad timing for Daniel, hasn't it? Who's been generally a little bit unlucky over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the first real sort of negative period of the season so far for him. It's like Jurgen Klopp said, you know, early in the season, this is the fittest he's seen Daniel Sturridge in his time at the club. And like you say, he's been scoring goals, he's been playing well, and he's been consistently fit, which is not something that's happened for him at Liverpool for a long time. And then obviously, like you say, gets hooked at half time against Red Star Belgrade, didn't play particularly well, missed a big chance, and then this comes along. It's, you know, you just hope that this sort of is resolved quickly either way, and then you can move on from it and build on what, you know, has largely been a good start to the season for him.
Yeah, we'll all have to wait and see on that, but obviously we'll be doing these daily videos every day, and we'll update you sort of as the story develops. It's an international break now as well, David. It's a time where Liverpool fans get nervous. Obviously, Liverpool fans, generally speaking, aren't huge fans of international football. I don't think that's, you know, necessarily specific just to Liverpool fans, but for those of us, you know, who see our players go kind of all around the world, it's a little bit of a nervy time, really, isn't it? You're thinking of people picking up injuries. I know you've written something for The Standard on like the likelihood, I guess, of Liverpool players getting injured, and is it, so have you found, is it paranoia, or is there actually something in it?
No, I mean, there's actually a degree of justification to the fact that Liverpool fans are so worried about this. It's obviously, I mean, the last international break was a great example in terms of Naby Keita picks up a hamstring injury, Sadio Mane needs surgery on his thumb, Mohamed Salah gets a groin injury, and then 45 minutes into the next game after the international break, Jordan Henderson pulls up with his hamstring, and that's been a recurring theme. There's a tweet that I mentioned, I think Simon Brundish put out, that I mentioned in the piece about that 35% of games missed by Liverpool players over the last 4 years have been due to injuries picked up in international breaks. Now that's pretty staggering.
Yeah.
And some of the insight I got fortunate to get for the piece sort of mentions that Liverpool's medical team do sort of accept that this is an issue for them, and possibly on the belief that because of the intensity of the training and the style that they play, that they are more susceptible to when there are changes in the training habits, that will have a negative effect on players' fitness. So that's quite an interesting thing that they accept that. But what they're trying to do now is to work closely with the clubs, with the countries, the respective countries of the players, to try and ease that transition to training in a new way, making sure they're not putting too much workload on the players and stuff. I mean, I don't want to give all the piece away, so you'll have to read it. But that's the gist of it.
That's the gist. I mean, it is interesting. I've seen that stuff on Cyber on this before, and it's improbably high, isn't it? Considering when you think about how many games did they play for countries compared to for it to be 35%. And there's a famous Arsene Wenger quote, isn't there, about international managers. They get a Ferrari and then they get it back, and it's out of petrol and it's been run into the ground and stuff. And there is a bit of a concern, isn't there, always, that international managers think, well, November, I think the next international break after this is February or March, so, I'm not too bothered about what happens between now and then. I just want to make sure that they're good for me now, and everyone's got their own pressures, but there is that little suspicion, isn't there, that, maybe not enough thought is, paid to, well, what about when they get back to the clubs?
Well, that's it. No matter how closely the medical teams from the country and club work together, it's down to the manager at the end of the day whether they select a particular player. And if they've got a load of games behind them for the club, but it's an important match, they're not going to consider that, are they? It's not really on them to think about that, and therefore, you'll get players who will play when they possibly shouldn't, and then that's how you end up picking up injuries. And it's difficult. It makes it more difficult for national team managers now when you consider that this UEFA Nations League exists in a period where you would just tend to have friendlies. It's another competitive game. It's more pressure on the international manager to pick a player who might not really be ideal to play them again. So it's a difficult one really for both sides of the coin really.
The thing I want to finish on is the announcement that Joe Cole's retired. That was the other thing that popped up for me for Football Flash this morning, was this with the Joe Cole announcing his retirement. It's one of them where you're like, I'm sure he don't know when he retired, but I mean, me and you were just chatting before, David, about while we were waiting to start. It's a brilliant career he's had, and that shouldn't necessarily be forgotten. And a lot of these wonder kids at 16, 17, it doesn't actually happen for them. And I think the stories like Joe Cole are actually kind of more rare, really. These lads who are said to go have all the skills, and then the next this and next that. Normally they kind of fall away, whereas he's actually got a career he can be really proud of.
Yeah, he was absolutely brilliant at that period under Mourinho at Chelsea specifically. To just have that as the best part of your career most players would be happy with that. He was fantastic. He was a really key player for them, and he was the solution to England's long-running left-sided problem, if you remember, for a while, and played quite well for his country. You remember that incredible goal against Sweden, was it the World Cup of the Euros? An excellent player. And we never saw the best of him at Liverpool, which was a real shame. And I think that's with injuries taking a toll. But he can be proud of his career. He's an excellent player.
Certainly can. So that's it from Talking Reds at the moment. Sorry to keep passing we watch. That's it from Talking Reds this week, but this morning, obviously back tomorrow. There's loads going on the Anfield Wrap on the subscription service. There was an excellent review show recorded yesterday, which is well worth you listening to. Sean Rogers and the lads going through that game in a little bit more detail, talking about the interesting tactical stuff that Jurgen Klopp was doing with that four-pronged attack. So do try and listen to that if you can. It's on the Talk Player service, all our podcasts, £5 a month. Loads on the YouTube channel as well. Make sure you subscribe and not just watching them, and then you'll get everything from us. But thanks for Dave for coming in. Let him know how we got on in the comments section.
Please don't.
And up to Reds.